I'm back!
Mama Owl, our queen, why are you so mean? All we wanted was...
Leave this hallway and do not come back. You can't tell me what to do. She can. She will. And the rest of us will make you pay your penance. I'm killing you, pregnant bitch. What? Now. I'll get you. You need to bend over backwards here.
Oh, no, baby. This is goodbye. You're going to be moving in with your father.
Oh, sorry, Sean. I didn't see you there. I'll just step over. Okay. Oh, stinks like fish. I missed that step there. Do you want to repeat that? Recently, I've been asked a lot. Mama Owl, what did you do? Why is everyone giving you so much hate? Let me show you, because I have it recorded.
The B, it's M to the B, it's M to the B.
Mama Owl, a TikToker famous for her POVs, pantomiming horrifying and triggering events, would come under fire in 2023 following a video going viral. In this video, she acts out the actual assault of a trans student as a teacher demands that the student pay their penance now. This video and the ensuing controversy would result in a whole new audience discovering her content and the wider internet's justified rage and anger at her taking these very serious situations and basically milking them into TikTok POVs. So today we're not only going to be reacting to some of these videos, but we're also going to be having conversations. Is there a way to seriously and respectfully take these situations like essay and package them into TikTok POVs? Is it a way to raise awareness, or does it literally take these various situations and make them into comedy? And also, how should the internet deal with this type of behavior? And how do we avoid the harassment and literal stalking that often follows these fits of internet rage? Hi everybody, my name is Justin Jordan, and today we're just going to be diving headfirst into the sick, sad world of Mama Owl and discussing the continuing controversy as well as the original controversy surrounding her presence on the internet and her form of content, which seems to turn serious issues into short-form content. But just before we get into watching the Penance TikTok, which is really what kickstarted a bulk of her controversy, I did just really want to offer a content warning and an explanation for why I'm abbreviating terms like essay. Unfortunately, due to content guidelines here on YouTube, I am unable to fully express myself and say these terms out of fear of being age restricted or being found out of guidelines. And I honestly really think that the censorship of these words on these platforms, well, not necessarily being out of bad intent of the platform, can really have this impact of trivializing these serious issues, leading people to describing situations or incidents that are very serious with emojis or the kind of unaliving term, which I don't really think is actually helpful to informing and raising awareness about discussions regarding these issues that actually impact people. And second, I really did want to offer a heavy trigger warning to watching this clip and this whole reaction segment if you've experienced essay or if you're just sensitive to discussion regarding it. I will put a timestamp just up here so you can skip ahead if you'd like, but we're just going to get into this video by Mama Owl.
You're going to pay your penance now. It's too bad you're trans. I can't get the full effect. Please stop. You're making me I'll take the charge. Send me to the office. It's too late for that now. What are you? I said it's time to pay your penance. No, don't touch me. I have to talk to a principal.
So these first few seconds are mostly what is making up the controversy, as people are saying that it's very inappropriate and very weird. And also, just to talk about this, because this is something that's going to come later, but the trigger warning literally being like pause, and 1 second later basically just flashing words on the screen and then going straight into basically depicting this horrific incident and acting it out is just really weird as well. Not to mention the fact that she decides to use the word penance, and I don't know if this is something specific to this case, because as we'll see later, she claims that someone had came to her and asked her to do this, and asked her to talk about this specific case. So I don't know if this is something that legitimately happened to someone, where someone used that term, but I do think, in my opinion, this seems more like a creative liberty that was taken by Mama Owl, which I don't really find... I don't think it's great that you're taking these possible creative liberties and literally recreating a person's essay experience. Like, I don't think that's something that we should be doing.
Principal, please. Oh my God, are you? What's going on here? Please help. help me. I have to show you this. Here, sit down. What is this? Our sub took me into a room by myself and just watch. I don't think I can watch any more of this. Please, you have to. You're going to pay your penance. Oh my god. Please help me. Come with me. Here, counselor. Yes? Is everything okay? No, it's not. She's been through something very traumatic and she needs a safe place. Can she be in here with you? Of course she can. Come on, dear. Come sit down. What happened? I think we need the police before there's any talking. Please just help her to calm down if you can. Police. Here. Come sit down right here. Please, it's they, them. Thank you. I'll be back shortly. It might seem stupid, but sometimes it helps me to color when I'm really stressed out or when I've been through some trauma. It helps me focus on something else. Here's markers, pens, crayons. You can use anything that you want. I'll stay here with you. You're safe. Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but while you're in here, I need you to fill out this report. Okay. I finished the picture. I'm feeling a lot better now. Okay, I'm not really sure what's going on here, hon. Mr. F said he needs the police. I know you're safe here at school. Do you feel safe going to your next class? Yeah, I mean, as long as I don't have mistakers, I'll be fine. I'll go to my next class. Thank you. Let me know if you need anything. Hey, did you hear we have a sub today? Hello? Alright, class. Looks like I'm in here today. My name is Mrs. Akers.
So, yeah, that was the entire video from start to finish. And just about the ending, I don't know, it was reading kind of clickbaity. It's like, oh my gosh, you have to see part 2. I'm sorry, that's just weird. So obviously the public reaction was extremely negative to this video, with many people basically explaining that this made a mockery of actual SA victims and that the depiction was also extremely graphic, potentially exposing thousands to triggering imagery which could do more harm than good. And again, going back to what I said a few minutes earlier regarding the trigger warning literally just being basically a flash in the pan before going straight into this brutal depiction of SA that is mimed up to the point where it's like a lot of people ended up seeing like it as something funny or something comical instead of the serious bit that Mama Owl claims that it was. And Mama Owl would eventually release a 20-minute long apology on YouTube later, in which she defends her actions, explaining how she meant to raise awareness through her content. But that really brings a wider question into fray. Is there a way to raise awareness of things like SA without being insensitive? And what about like depictions in the media? So to discuss this further, I am gonna go into a little rant about a show that depicted a lot of issues that many people see as bad and very insensitive at depicting these issues. So 13 Reasons Why was originally a book written by Jay Asher in 2007 before being picked up by Netflix and converted into show format, with season 1 releasing in 2017. And I don't know what possessed me, aside from the Netflix top 10 popular page, to watch this show when it came out originally in 2017, which means that I was literally 12 years old around the time that the show came out. And yeah, I sat there and watched all 4 seasons. The show has received a lot of criticism, and it really offers a compelling argument as to why this idea that the graphic depiction of these horrific events is needed, or a good way to raise awareness, is not exactly the best idea. The show originally focused on a series of 13 tapes recorded by Hannah Baker, prior to her eventually taking her own life in the first season, and it really heavily leaned into this idea that showing was better than telling in these situations. It literally featured a gruesome scene of Hannah Baker literally taking her own life in her bathtub, which stayed in the show for weeks unedited before criticism reached a point where they pulled the plug on that scene and it was ultimately removed. In later seasons, the show would continue down this path, showing the brutal assault of a character, Tyler. And this scene went on for minutes, by the way. Minutes of witnessing a character in the show literally go through a very traumatic experience, very uncomfortable to watch. And after receiving criticism for showing a brutal, minutes-long scene of this, the showrunner would say this in a Vanity Fair article, which I found very telling. Quote, "If there's a greater sense of backlash about the scene, especially it being hard to watch, disgusting, or inappropriate, that goes to the point that we need to be talking about the fact that things like this happen. The fact that this would be somehow more disgusting than what happened to Hannah and Jessica, I'm shocked but not surprised." So just for context, if you didn't watch the show, which, you know, maybe for your mental health and your well-being is probably the best. So Hannah Baker in one of her tapes would describe how she was ultimately assaulted by another character named Bryce, and Bryce would ultimately go on to basically have his own redemption arc in the show, which is very, very weird and very disturbing. Many people found issue with the fact that season 3 of the show was essentially a way to make you feel bad for Bryce, as, you know, he got bullied, you know, whatever, he had to move schools. And it's like, dude had literally attacked multiple women and gotten away with it, basically only getting a slap on the wrist, which was probation. And also, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't believe that what happened to Hannah and Jessica was shown brutally on screen for multiple minutes, multiple angles of that. Like, it was just so disgusting and in such graphic detail that I think the disgust was more so about what people were seeing than what people were, you know, feeling. I think people were also disgusted about what happened to Hannah and what happened to Jessica, but it was just different because, you know, you're not seeing it in front of your face, if that makes sense. It's a very nasty decision to make, in my opinion. And honestly, it's not just enough to show these brutal scenes and badly done depictions of these horrific crimes and rest on your laurels, sitting here and saying that's enough activism for today, when there's literally studies showing that 13 Reasons Why led to an increase in rates of people taking their own lives. So there's literally this article which says, release of 13 Reasons Why associated with increase in youth taking their own lives. The Netflix show 13 Reasons Why was associated with a 28.9 increase in suicide among U.S. youth ages 10 to 17 in the month April 2017, following the show's release after accounting ongoing trends in psychiatry. The findings highlight the necessity of using best practices when portraying in popular entertainment and in the media. The study was conducted by researchers at several universities, hospitals, and the National Institute of Mental Health. So yeah, just plainly showing this graphic content is just not enough. And it's extremely hard to depict these tragedies in ways that are acceptable and in ways that are productive, as even we see these TV shows with million-dollar budgets and teams of consultants struggling to depict these issues in a sensitive way. And as it pertains to topics and, you know, depictions of SA, I also found this other interesting source, which was the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. How do media representations impact survivors? Harmful, misleading, or inaccurate depictions of sex and sexual violence are common in the media. This is not only triggering for survivors to watch, but creates norms about what is and what is not safe, healthy, respectful relationships. Many times these depictions romanticize depict or sexual violence as less harmful or even okay, and erase problematic relationships for the convenience of the story. These depictions aren't just in fictional television or movie dramas, they're even visible in the news and other outlets, which the public look to as fact-based. So in the story, just to go back to 13 Reasons Why, and further explaining, in the story of what happened to Tyler, Tyler was ultimately assaulted by another character named Monty. Monty was seen as one of the jock characters or whatever. And after being SA'd, Tyler was extremely angry. Tyler was extremely upset and decided that he wanted to basically take out that anger on the school and shut up the school. And the show also, I think, took it in a very, very odd way and decided to have Monty have his own gay plotline, which I think is offensive in its own way, insinuating that gay people, you know, are somehow more likely to SA people than, you know, straight people, when we literally have characters like Bryce who are given redemption arcs. I feel like the show as a whole was very, very, very over protective of characters that would commit these horrific crimes against women, against men, against people in general. Like, it was very enabling in a way, I think, and in its attempt to get us to see the whole picture, in its attempt to try to act like it was showing us both sides of a story, it legitimized this idea that, oh, we should forgive these people, or, oh, these people shouldn't face consequences for their actions. So to say the least, it's especially jarring that people on the internet are deciding to do this by way of TikTok POVs. And I want to make it clear that it's not just Mama Owl doing these POVs. There are thousands and thousands of creators making this content, some doing it well with sensitivity and some doing it in a way similar to the Penance video, sensationalizing it and depicting it in an extremely sensitive manner, or in an extremely insensitive manner. And I do just want to emphasize the impact of short form content in this as well, because even in these shows where they have 50-minute episodes, they are not able to depict the intricacies and the after effects that these sexual can have on people. Like, literally, people are traumatized for months, years, days. Everybody's healing process is different. So for Mama Owl to attempt to share these stories and compact them into her own pantomime or acting skit is just especially offensive as well. And this is just something that I feel like she does not take accountability for. But who is Mama Owl, and how did she really even come to make these POVs? Well, Mama Owl really seemed to get her start in 2020, making her politics very, very clear as she advocated against Trump, got into internet fights with his supporters, and posted in support of Black Lives Matter. She generally just appeared to share her life with the internet until her POV content got absolutely massive. And I think one characteristic of Mama Owl that has been consistent throughout her entire presence on the internet is her oversharing. Like, it's her capability of oversharing. In the beginning of her TikTok, she would share things like her children's faces online, she would share her husband, she would share things where you could like see images of her house, she would share things about her job. It really seems like an outlet for her in a way that, like, she was not very shy about showing the internet everything. And also around this time of 2020, the TikTok algorithm really seemed to be very open, letting creators consistently get a lot of views, and it honestly really seemed like anyone could go viral in 2020. And who else feels like they missed out? Because honestly, I could have been a millionaire at this point if I would have just pulled out my phone and made a TikTok. But regardless, Mama Owl continued to make POV content, eventually opening submissions and making a number of TikToks covering user-submitted stories. Most of these stories were in a school setting, as Mama Owl had emphasized that she was a teacher in real life. Some of them were focused on like teacher duties or like things that teachers had to deal with, like heavy-handed administrators or having to deal with students who are struggling. But she also did kind of move more towards user submissions at a point shortly before the controversy would ensue. I don't know if it was just clickbait, but her actions and her overall demeanor in these videos was just utterly insane.
Killing you, pregnant bitch.
And again, something about TikTok that I've discussed over and over again is how insane people have to act, how bombastic you have to be, how crazy you have to be to get attention in the algorithm, where people are consistently competing against each other. Like, Mama Owl was not the only one making this POV TikTok format. There were thousands of other creators trying to do the same exact thing. So I don't know if this was her way of trying to judge it up, of trying to reach new audiences, but it definitely ended up backfiring on her. And this rise kind of leads us to the Penance video, which ultimately ended up reaching an audience outside of her bubble of POV enjoyers, causing her a great deal of controversy that she hadn't really dealt with before. So after the controversy, it just looked like Mama Owl deleted the video, but knowing the internet, of course, nothing was ever able to go away, and countless fake fan pages were made public, finding other absurd clips from her content and just sharing them to the wider public. And Mama Owl really seems upset by this, quote, trolling campaign. Literally AI songs made parroting her, accounts made claiming that they love Mama Owl when in reality they post, her worst moments and the videos and the clips that she's been trying so hard to get rid of. And I'll talk about these accounts later, mostly when we get into her apology video or response video, because while I don't think these accounts are the most productive, I do think Mama Owl gives them a lot of credit. I don't know, she acts like these people are like extremely evil or something, when in reality they are just likely cashing in on the drama and catching up with the drama. But content creators and YouTubers made viral videos covering the situation, including YouTuber Louis McClung, and massive, basically, campaigns would be waged against Mama Owl, people reporting her account, and actually successfully, for a point, getting her banned. Leading to, and I really feel like a lot of these fan accounts and fan pages are bigger than her own, page sometimes, get more views, get more attention, get more likes. And immediately after, she really seemed to be on damage control mode, basically claiming that her page wasn't for kids or students. And I found that absolutely ridiculous, because how are you submitting these generated story, user or viewer submitted stories from students and then sitting here and claiming that kids are not part of your audience? Those things don't align with each other. And I will admit, while most people were actually angry and just wanted accountability from Mama Owl, there were some people who took this as a chance to dox her. And as I'd said earlier, she'd posted a lot of personal information in her videos in the early days, and many people were able to find her address, which is just absolutely uncalled for and weird. And again, it just comes back to this situation where it's we legitimately have grievances with this person. A lot of people on the internet are actually upset with this person, but people like specific groups of people. I don't know why. Like there's this very small subset of the internet that thinks that doxing is justice somehow. And there was this idea that like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want Mama Owl to be my teacher, so therefore she should be fired, so therefore we should dox her. And like, do I think that she was an active danger to the children around her? Of course I don't know her, whatever, right? But no, it really seems like her very, very, very misguided attempt at raising awareness and doing harm reduction, which she'll go further in the detail in her reaction video. But again, like, I don't think she was an active danger to the point where doxing her was appropriate at all. And also, doxing her is not solving anything. It's literally just leading to this deranged group of people on the internet who will come to her house, or maybe, I don't know, it just puts her entire family in danger when her entire family didn't do anything. And mind you, this woman has kids, so you're also putting her kids at risk as well. So that's just something that we shouldn't be doing in general. Even if somebody doesn't have kids, it just really irritates and grates me when like there are legitimate criticisms and legitimate things to criticize a creator on, and instead of engaging that legitimate criticism and debate and kind of and wider discussion, people instead will just go straight to, okay, let's dox this girl. And it's like, what are you doing? Two wrongs literally don't make a right, and doxing her, but not only her children and her husband, puts her entire family at risk. And after this controversy died down a bit, Mama Owl would eventually release a 20-minute video discussing everything, and we're just going to go over some of the major parts of it. In her video titled Mama Owl, What Actually Happened and Some of My Thoughts on the Matter, she basically attempts to explain her behavior and why she decided to post and make the Penance video. Without giving too much away, her explanations are way less than convincing in my opinion, and don't really justify it, only really seeming to give excuses as to why she thought this was okay. So first, Mama Owl explains why she made the video, claiming that a person DM'd her, asking her to make a skit so they could get justice.
So back in July of 2023, I made a skit. It was sent to me by somebody who is an adult looking back on their childhood, and they wanted to call out their attacker because they never really felt like they got true justice. And they wanted to do this by making sure that person would know that the skit was about them, but not knowing who was calling them out.
And while I don't necessarily have any, like, disbelief in that, like, it is totally possible that she could have been taking user submissions. I think it's weird that, again, like I was saying earlier, there really seems to be this apparent embellishment in this content. I don't know if whether it was an effort to get more views. I don't know whether it was just her legitimately trying to act it out. But the pay your penance thing and literally showing that, would that not be triggering for somebody? I think this was just a bad idea in general to accept user requests, especially for things like, especially when you're covering a topic that's this sensitive and that's this important to so many people. She also attempts to explain away how triggering the video is, saying that the video had a trigger warning, and to be fair, the video did have a trigger warning, whatever, but it literally like flashed on the screen in like 2.1 seconds. And I get that TikTok is short form, but this video is literally 2 minutes, over 2 minutes long. So I'm sure there could have been 5 seconds or 1 second, or I don't know, just a better trigger warning to tell people not to watch it, because
I put up a full page content warning, trigger warning, disclaimer, all of it. All the safeguarding that I could possibly put in as a content creator. And I did the story.
Imagine you're in your recovery process, you're kind of recovering from your own essay, and you scroll down and you literally see Mama Owl making this video. You basically get a flash in your face, and then you get it explained to you that this is a triggering video. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Even if you say pause for 1 second on TikTok, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are gonna pause and be able to see what you're talking about. Mama Owl then goes into explaining why she took down the video after being told that it was triggering.
Not long after, I did receive a message from a member of the trans community, because the victim in the story was a trans child. That person told me that even with all the safeguarding I had put into place, and even though they felt that they were in a good mental headspace, that video was still triggering for them. I listen to the members of the communities I am advocating for. So I immediately removed the video, and I issued an apology to that person. Now, a lot of times people who are furious over a piece of content want a public apology, want it to be talked about. But because I'm about lessening harm,
I didn't make another video talking about against the trans community in religious spaces.
And here's what I have an issue with, because she says she's about harm reduction. She says that she didn't talk about the situation more aside from like one public apology. And this idea of harm reduction and kind of like, I'm not going to talk about my own mistakes, seems very like one-sided, and it's a very convenient excuse to claim that you're about harm reduction when I feel like this video legitimately did a lot of harm. Not only like the video itself made a joke of SA and was also reenacting SA, triggering other people who had already experienced that, it literally was so bad for the trans community. The random, oh, you're trans, so I'm not going to get the full effect. What are you talking about? That is very, like, I don't know, it's just very odd and very weird how she went about making this video, editing this video, posting this video, and never once thought that this would be something that people would be offended by. And also, I really don't think it's appropriate to call it harm reduction to not address this when there is a lot of harm being done to victims of SA and people who have this type of trauma. So it's like, what are we seriously talking about here? And a big sticking point for this controversy was this idea that she said her account wasn't for students. Mind you, any TikTok section, like comment section, when you're looking at and people are talking about ages or like, what year were you born? And you'll see 2010, 2012. So like, this is my issue with people claiming they have like these adult only TikTok pages. No matter how many times you can say, oh, my boundaries, oh, I'm only accepting 18-year-old people to look at my page, there are going to be minors who look at your page. This is social media. This is a public platform. So like, especially on a platform like TikTok, there are going to be young people. That is what really deeply disturbs me. I was going to do a video about this, but that is what deeply disturbs me about the trend, which is basically just showing people's body parts. I don't know, people are being very inappropriate on TikTok, and it's really weirding me out because it's like, you guys know there's a lot of kids on TikTok, right? You know this is like I'm not gonna say a kid's platform, but like a pretty young platform, like a pretty young base of people who use this platform. So Mama Owl does also discuss the doxing, which is obviously very wrong and odd. And then she dedicates, I would say, a bulk of the video to these people who she calls the trolls, before she ends up making very similar remarks to these 13 Reasons Why showrunners, basically explaining that it's important to see this type of stuff and that you don't get it before you see it.
A lot of people want to know why I would portray something like that, why I would make content about students if my content isn't meant for students. And it's actually really simple. People talk all the time about what is going on in this world, the horrible atrocities that people have to face. And it does nothing. But what seems to have a stronger impact is when you see something happen. When you see it and you're made uncomfortable by it, then you are more compelled to act.
And like I said before, in response to the quote from the showrunner for 13 Reasons Why, I don't think seeing is necessarily believing. When you look back at history, there was plenty of times that people saw disgusting behavior right in front of them, but it's literally the presentation of such behavior which leads to the change, which leads to these conversations. You could present an issue in a way that is very backwards, in a way that is not, in a way that is not right, and I feel like it'll end up doing more harm than good. Even thinking about things that, are seen as seen widely as great kind of works today that expose the ills of slavery, like Uncle Tom's Cabin, which, while it did present a lot of very detailed and gruesome imagery in book form, which was very popular at the time, Harriet Beecher Stowe also, at the same time, presented very racist stereotypes about Black people, about how they were still subservient, about how they wanted to be enslaved or whatever. Like, the racist caricature doesn't stop because you betray horrific things. And like, I understand that these are two separate situations, but I still think this kind of thinking applies. It's not just enough to show something. It has to be shown with intention, and it has to be shown in a way that is sensitive, and it has to be shown in a way that is accurate. And if you're not willing to do that, I just think that you shouldn't be pursuing this type of creation, if that makes sense. There are so many other shows you can make. There's so many other things that you could use for drama in your show, instead of trying to start a conversation about these issues while realistically doing more harm than good. why don't you just, I don't know, repost the stories of people who actually legitimately have gone through this type of trauma? There are thousands and thousands of people who post on TikTok about their own traumas, thousands of people who post on YouTube about their own traumas. So instead of sitting here trying to, I don't know, be the great eye opener, why don't we just sit down and actually listen to the victims of this type of trauma and stop trying to speak over them in a way that is very, very degrading and very, very inaccurate? And I'm going to get personal here because, I don't know, I just want to say, as someone who's gone through SA myself, no, I don't think these depictions are actually helpful. I don't think the 13 Reasons Why depiction is helpful. I don't think the Penance TikTok were helpful. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough that my experience and I've been able to heal a lot from what happened to me, but I don't, again, think that these depictions are leading to productive conversations that need to be happening. I think hearing the stories of these people do, like when you hear the story of someone who's a victim, it really opens up this conversation, and the continuous silencing of these victims and continuous like, oh, no, your story isn't good enough for, you know, us to actually air it or us to talk about it. Let's make our own story and like embellish the details and talk about penance, okay? And I think another important thing to remember when you're making this type of content is that these depictions are going to be seen by people like me who have experienced SA, and ultimately kids who have no idea who don't know about this stuff and are making these depictions for a drama, for your TV show, or a cute TikTok is just not something that I'm going to sit down and agree with. This isn't shock content. This is legitimately stuff that people actually have to face and trauma that people actually have to live with. And with that, I think I'm mostly done with talking about Mama Owl. I really think that Mama Owl is an example of someone who has, I don't think she has necessarily bad intentions, but there are a lot of people, but again, intention doesn't equal impact. There are a lot of people who had great intentions, you know, who have done horrific things. And I'm not saying this is like the worst sin on earth or whatever, but I'm just saying I don't know, people need to learn that if you're actually about sharing this type of story, if you're actually about lifting up the voices of these people who have gone through SA, who have gone through this trauma, why don't we actually sit here and listen to them instead of like how much more powerful would it be if instead of trying to make this into a entertaining skit in which he talked about penance, Mama Owl actually sat here and it just shared the story of a victim who submitted it via voice note or something. Like, I know it would have been a departure from her regular content, but again, she should have known that this is not something that she was able to depict in a way that's sensitive. And the harm that this done, I think, is just really immeasurable when you look at how this video has basically become a joke. Imagine you submitting your SA story and it being turned into a joke by a woman who you trusted enough to submit that story to. That is heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. But regardless, thank you all so much for watching. And I'm so sorry that this video was very potentially triggering. I'm going to try to go back to less serious programming soon. We'll see. But thank you all so much for watching. And I will be back to my nostalgia, normal-ish content soon. I just hope this video was not too hard for you all. And I'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.